April 2014. The water looks the same. Clear, cold, ordinary. Residents turn the tap. Other people drink. No one tells them what changed upstream. In the city of Flint, the story starts with paperwork, not poison. A city that once built engines and paychecks is now drowning in debt. Streetlights go dark. Parks stop getting mowed. The budget meetings feel like triage. Flint is an old industrial city with old infrastructure. The pipes under the streets were not built for comfort. They were built to last. Decades later, they are still there, buried and forgotten, carrying water through metal that has aged the way people age, quietly, until one day it fails. In a government office downtown, men in suits lean over ledgers. They talk about costs, contracts, and an ugly gap between money coming in and money going out. The city has been buying drinking water from Detroit for years. It arrives treated, stable, and predictable. It comes with corrosion control chemicals that help keep metals from dissolving into the water. Now the plan is to stop paying Detroit, at least for a while. A new pipeline is being built to bring water from Lake Huron. Until that is ready, the city will take its water from the Flint River. It is framed as temporary. It is framed as necessary. It is framed as safe. The decision does not feel like a health decision inside those rooms. It feels like a finance decision. The people making it are looking at spreadsheets, not pipes. They are looking at line items, not skin rashes. On the morning of the switch, the water treatment plant feels like any other industrial room. Concrete floors, metal stairs, valves and gauges. A river intake that looks like a promise. Outside, the Flint River moves slow, dark, and ordinary in its own way. It runs past factories, rail lines, and neighborhoods that have been shaped by industry. River water is not the same as lake water. It carries a different load, different minerals, different contaminants, different risks. Treating it right is not optional. Workers open the system. Water from the river begins its run through filters and tanks. In the control room, there is no smell of danger. There is only the routine sound of machinery and the belief that a city can change its water the way it changes a supplier. Across town, the first glasses fill. Some people say it tastes different. Some say it smells like a pool. Some say it looks yellow, then brown, then rusty. They hold jars up to the light, and the color does not settle into normal. A few call the city. A few stand in line at public meetings. They are told the water meets standards. They are told to let the tap run. They are told the smell is harmless. Then the first advisories arrive. Boil water notices. Warnings about bacteria. Officials add more disinfectant. The water changes again. It gets harsher. It gets more metallic. It gets harder to ignore. The Flint River is not like the water Flint used to buy. It carries chemistry that is more aggressive on old metal. In a city with aging pipes and service lines, that matters. When water is corrosive, it does not just pass through a system. It eats at it. There is a simple protective step that can be used in a switch like this. Corrosion control, a treatment that coats pipes from the inside, helping keep metals locked away. For Flint, that protective step is not put in place when the river water begins flowing. The consequence is quiet at first. It does not explode. It leaches. Inside homes, behind walls, under streets, water pushes through old plumbing. It scrapes at scale and sediment. It pulls metals into itself. It carries them to kitchen sinks and bathroom basins. People do not see lead. They see stains. They see brown water in a bathtub. They smell something that does not belong in drinking water. They feel rashes after showers. They watch laundry come out darker than it went in. They are told it is fine. In an auto plant, the problem is not subtle. Metal parts are sensitive to corrosion. When the plant tests the city water, the results are bad enough that the company stops using it. The plant switches to a different water source for its processes. It is a blunt message. If the water can damage engine parts, what is it doing inside a human body? Still, the city stays on the river. Months pass. Complaints stack up like unopened mail. Some residents start keeping their own records. Dates, smells, colors, symptoms. Some begin collecting water samples in bottles and jars, labeling them with careful handwriting. It looks like paranoia to outsiders. Inside Flint, it looks like survival. One resident, Leanne Walters, does not stop calling. She keeps asking for answers. She keeps asking for tests. When answers do not come, she starts building her own case, sample by sample, bottle by bottle. What she is doing is simple. She is refusing to be dismissed. In state offices, regulators debate rules and compliance. There is a federal framework for lead in drinking water, the lead and copper rule. It is built around sampling and required actions. But the rule is only as strong as the will to enforce it, and the will is weak when admitting failure means admitting a disaster. Testing becomes its own battlefield. Which homes count as high risk? How long water should sit in pipes before being sampled? Which results are elevated and which are dismissed as outliers? How samples are collected matters, and small choices can make bad water look better on paper. In early 2015, the city issues another warning, this time about disinfection byproducts in the water. To residents, it is one more sign that the system is not under control. To officials, it is another problem to manage without admitting the bigger problem underneath. A scientist at the Environmental Protection Agency begins to see something that does not fit the assurances. A high lead result in a home. Corrosion indicators. A story that points back to the missing protection at the switch. A memo is written. It lays out concerns, not rumors. It describes a system that is failing the basics. The memo does not end the crisis. It becomes another document in a stack of documents. Warnings exist. Action does not. Flint residents keep showing up. They bring jars. They bring photos of orange stains in sinks and tubs. They bring medical visits and pharmacy receipts. They bring anger that hardens into something sharper than protest. It becomes insistence. Outside help arrives from an unlikely place. A team led by a civil engineering professor from Virginia Tech begins sampling water in Flint homes. Not the official samples, independent ones. Hundreds of them. They test the water the way you test a claim, by trying to break it. The results are alarming. Lead in water is not a rare accident in Flint. It is widespread risk. The data shows a city that should not be reassured. It should be protected. The findings spread through community meetings and local news. People are no longer arguing about taste. They are arguing about betrayal. Officials face a choice. Admit the system is dangerous, or keep repeating that standards are being met. For months, the second choice wins. Then the pressure becomes too heavy to hold down. After more than a year on the river, Flint announces a change. The city will reconnect to Detroit water. The switch happens, but the damage does not reverse like a flipped lever. Corrosion has already been eating the inside of the system. The pipes have been conditioned to release what they held. Returning to treated water helps, but it cannot undo what has already been stripped away. In homes, the water still runs discolored in some taps. Filters become a necessity. Bottled water becomes a monthly expense. Trust evaporates. Then, another layer of harm emerges. Legionnaires' disease, a severe form of pneumonia. Health officials in Michigan report increased cases in the county during the period of the water switch. Adults are hospitalized. Some do not survive. For Flint, it feels like the crisis has moved from sink stains to hospital rooms. It is no longer just the fear of what might happen years from now. It is sickness now. A nurse in an emergency room watches an adult patient struggle to breathe. The patient is exhausted, chest tight, skin damp with sweat. The nurse hears the same question again and again from families in the hallway. Is the water part of this? The nurse does not have an answer that feels safe. In early winter, the mayor declares a state of emergency. In early January, the governor of Michigan declares an emergency for the county. Soon after, the President of the United States declares a federal emergency. Suddenly, the crisis is no longer a local complaint. It is national failure. Water distribution sites open. Adults stand in lines that wrap around blocks. They load heavy cases into trunks and wagons. They carry jugs up porch steps. They shovel snow to reach the curb. The simple act of drinking becomes work. Inside government buildings, the questions sharpen. Who knew? When? Why did the city switch without corrosion control? Why were residents dismissed for so long? Why did a car company get a faster response than the people living beside the plant? Congress holds hearings. Officials testify. Emails surface. Timelines get reconstructed. Some say they were misinformed. Some say they followed regulations. Some say responsibility belongs somewhere else. But the water does not care about excuses. A governor-appointed task force publishes a final report. The language is direct. The crisis is described as a series of government failures. Failures of oversight. Failures of expertise. Failures of urgency. A city was harmed by decisions that treated residents like a line item. Experts explain the mechanism in plain terms. When corrosion control is interrupted, pipes can release metals. Lead does not need a loud signal. It accumulates. It hides. It steals health without announcing itself. Flint begins the slow work of repair, replacing lead service lines, flushing hydrants, adjusting treatment, testing again and again. Some houses get new pipes. Some yards get dug up. Some residents get paperwork and promises. The work is loud and messy. A backhoe breaks the street. A crew lifts broken pipe from soil. The metal looks scarred and tired. It is a physical artifact of a decision that was treated like a temporary experiment. Years pass, and the scars remain. Some people refuse to drink from the tap even after tests improve. Some keep buying bottled water because trust is harder to rebuild than infrastructure. The memory of being told the water was safe becomes a permanent stain. The legal aftermath drags on. Investigations, charges, dismissals, new filings, arguments about procedure, arguments about accountability. For residents, the courtroom calendar feels distant from the daily reality of living with doubt. In 2017, Flint signs a long-term agreement for treated water again. The city tries to build stability into a system that was once treated like a shortcut. In May 2025, the Environmental Protection Agency announces that an emergency order issued years earlier can be lifted. On paper, requirements have been met. On paper, the system is back inside the lines. But paper is where the story began, and paper is not what people drink. In the end, the Flint story is not only about chemistry, it is about power. A city under financial control. A decision made for savings. A cascade of denial. A warning that sat on desks while water moved through pipes. It is easy to imagine this as an exception, a one-time disaster. It is harder to accept what Flint suggests. Many American cities have old pipes. Many have tight budgets. Many depend on agencies to catch problems early. Flint shows what happens when those agencies fail, and when the people most affected are the last to be believed. The water in Flint looked ordinary at the start. That is what makes the story dangerous. Poison does not always announce itself. If a city can be harmed for more than a year before the truth becomes unavoidable, what else is happening in places where no one is looking? How many other shortcuts are waiting upstream?